Shalom, my brothers and sisters, and thank you for stopping by another video message from Walking in Truth Ministries, a Hebrew ministry for those that are on a set-apart path, and for those that are still stuck in those Babylonian false traditional churches that still call the false names of the name of the Most High, which they call God, the false name of the Son, what they call Jesus and or Lord. And we're here to at Walking in Truth Ministries rightly divide the word of truth and knowledge in order to gain a better understanding and gain divine revelation from the true Ruach from above. Now today's message is going to be on an important topic, which is called spiritual adultery. Now we know that what a spiritual adultery person is, better known today mainstream as a fence straddler. Now a fence straddler is a person that does a balancing act on top of a fence, and it's a fence straddler. That person is swaying back and forth, doesn't know if he's in or out, doesn't know if he's hot or cold, but just doing a balancing act, looking all crazy, about to fall. And if he does fall, it's going to be on the wrong side. 99% of the time, it's going to be on the wrong side. So we're here at Walking in Truth Ministries. It's going to go through some scriptures to gain some enlightenment, some encouragement, and some divine revelation, so that when we even spot ourselves that we are being double-minded or going back and forth or not sure we're in or out, that we can come back to the scriptures and get a better guidance from the Ruach. So without further ado, let's go into the scriptures, and we're going to start off with the book of James, and we'll start with chapter 4, verse number 4. You follow me with your Bibles if you have them, please. And it reads, "Ye adulterers and adulteresses." Now we already know that something bad is going to happen, because here James is talking to those that are saved, those that are the elect, because that word adulterer was used to the children of Israel when they were playing the harlot, or when they was going back practicing or dibbling and dabbling in those heathen pagan traditions, trying to worship Yahuwah with those type of practices. And Yahuwah equated that with playing the harlot or being an adulterer or an adulteresses. So then it reads, "Know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with Yahuwah?" So that was the question that he asked those people who are bringing those pagan and man-made tradition and to try to be worship the Most High. And then he continues with this statement: "Whosoever," that means anybody, whether it be a person who's on the elect path, whether it be a person that's still stuck in Babylon, whether it be an unbeliever, heathen or pagan. He said, "Whosoever therefore will be a friend." Okay, now that word friend, it used the means that you have an affection, that you got feelings, like strong feelings of the world. Talking about the world system, not talking about the creation. Because you know that Yahuwah loves his creation, you know, the earth and the inhabitants of the earth. But here the world is talking about the world system that is contrary to the will of Yahuwah. So he said, "Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Yahuwah." Now that's a fearful thing to think about. That should put people on high alert or high spiritual alert, thinking that if a person, doesn't matter who you are, saved or not saved, if you have feelings or attachments to the world system, that you are an enemy of Yahuwah. Now we know how Yahuwah hates his enemies, because Satan is his adversary or his enemy. And you know how he kicked Satan or Lucifer out of heaven because Lucifer didn't want to do the will of Yahuwah. He didn't want to be obedient, and so Lucifer got in his mind that he could be like the Most High, which is an idolatry, prideful way of thinking. So Yahuwah's like, okay, you want to be a god? I'll let you be a god. Be god of the world system down there, and while you're at it, I'm going to make hell your permanent abode after all well and done. So a lot of people today, Christian or not Christian, or people on set apart paths, Hebrews or whatever, thinking that they can still be on a set apart path, be saved, and still participate in worldly activities, and still thinking that they're still a friend of Yahuwah, which Yahuwah says that you're not. Yahuwah says that you're his enemy, and you don't want to be Yahuwah's enemy, especially in those last days where the enemy, Satan and his adversaries, is doing everything that they can to get people away from the truth of what the word says. So for that, we're going to go into a little deeper of what the world system is, because we have to have a clear understanding and a clear knowledge of what the scriptures tell us what the world is. So if you could turn to me to the book of 1 John chapter 2, and we're going to start with verse 15, and we're going to go to verse 16. There's two scriptures, just two verses on the book of 1 John chapter 2. And it reads, I'm reading from the King James Version, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. Now, John is already talking about a commandment that he says that from the Most High, say that love not the world. Now, he's not talking about the creation, but he's talking about the world system, or the things that are in the world. That means the things that are associated with the world system. If any man love the world or the world system that is contrary to the will of the Most High, the love of the Father is not in him. So what type of love is in a person that loves the world if it's not the Father from above? Well, it's going to be a love for Satan. If it's not going to be the world love for the Father not in him, then it's going to be the love of the enemy. It's going to be inside the person, because you're going to be either one or the other. It reads in number 16. Now this is where we're going to find out what's in the world. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. Now, those three things right there tells us those things that are contrary to the will of Yahuwah. The first thing is the lust of the flesh. Now, the word lust is, in other words, is an undesirable or uncontrollable desire that we have no control over at all. I mean, we're like wild person is a wild animal, a wild beast, that he goes off animal instinct. They person have no type of self-control, which is one of the fruits of the Ruach, is having self-control. But here the person have no control over his flesh. Now the flesh, of course, mostly talk about sexual affections of the flesh. Okay, that the person can't have no type of self-control to satisfy or to curb his sexual appetites whether single or whether married. You see a lot of people do things that is contrary to what the word of Yahuwah says. And also let's talk about the lust of the eyes, meaning that seeing something or coveting after something that is not yours, but that you see it that is good in your own eyes and you want that thing, but it might not be good for you. That is not of Yahuwah at all. Okay, things to covet, we covet something. Another word called not coveting something is trying to hang with the Joneses. You see the Joneses buy a new house or anything like that. You want to try to match whatever they get, keep up with the Joneses. But that is not of Yahuwah. Also, and the last thing is the pride of life, which is another word, having a prideful or a haughty or a spiritual arrogance about you, and that you're thinking that you're better than everybody else, which is not of Yahuwah, because Yahuwah wants a person who is humble in spirit, and that who is meek and who understands the things of Yahuwah, that is not so easily swayed against the world system, because the world system is going to try to conform you into their ways, not in Yahuwah's ways. Because you know that Paul said, "Be ye not conformed to this world." So, but the world system, that's what the world system tries to do. It tries to squeeze you, trying to mold you into the world system. But Yahuwah said, don't be conformed to that. You know, we have to renew our mind by the word of the Ruach that comes to deliver us from all the evil activities of the world system, because we have to be righteous and we have to be holy, because Yahushua says be holy, be perfect. Okay, like our Father up in heaven is perfect and holy, we have to be that. That's a command. You know, it's not that we hear all the excuses. Oh, we're not perfect. You know, make all kinds of excuses of why we can't live a holy life. But Yahushua says, forget the excuses. He said, be perfect. You know, just like our Father in heaven is perfect. So, and that's why, and this is where we're going to go into our next set of scriptures, which are going to help us to see what Yahushua is talking about here, about being perfect and things like that. And we're going to talk about, we're going to go in the book of Revelations and try to expound on that, being perfect, and why it's important to be perfect. We're going to talk about what it is to be a lukewarm or a person who a compromiser, and how Yahushua hates that. Okay, so we're going to go to the book of Revelations, chapter 3, verses 15 through 16. Okay, and it reads, I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. Now, here Yahushua is talking to the last church, the seventh church of Laodicea. Now, this church here thinks they got it going on the outward side. They had everything going. They were rich. They were prosperous. They looked like they had success. They had, it's like on the outside they had needed nothing. But here it reads in verse 16, it says, so then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out my mouth. Now that word spew in the Greek means to spit, or even more graphic word is to vomit. So every time Yahushua sees a lukewarm Christian, or a Christian that is doing the balancing act on top of a fence, going back and forth, being double-minded, Yahushua said that makes him want to vomit. makes him want to spew this person out his mouth. Now, when that happens, a lot of theology, or a lot of people talk about that when it does that, it means that you're cut off. Because once you spew out, you don't want to, once you vomit out something, you don't want to pick it back up and put it back in your mouth again. So once Yahushua vomits you out, that's it. That's a done deal. That's like casting a person out into outer darkness. So yes, a person can lose their, if they have salvation or they're on an elect path, but they're still walking, being lukewarm, they're neither hot or cold, then yes, Yeshua can spit you out, vomit you up, and you can lose your salvation. Okay, there's no such thing as once saved, always saved, that you might hear in those false Babylonian Christian churches that you might hear today. That's a false doctrine, man-made up tradition. Okay, because we gotta fight for the faith. I mean, we gotta continue to put off our old man, and we have to keep working out our salvation with fear and trembling, because this is not a game. This is definitely not no joke. This is the end times. So you gotta be either one or the other. You gotta be either hot, which is good for, you know, think about a person that's hot. You know, think a person who's on fire. You know, who person just got saved or whatever, comes to the, or person who just came to the true revelation of knowledge of the true name of the Son and of the Father. The person who boldly going out proclaiming the gospel, that's being hot, you know. Or a person that is cold, you know, a person that, you might not, you know, a person that's cold, a person that, you know, think about a cold glass of water, that it does have its benefits as well. You know, okay, you come back from a hot day, from a hot workout, you want a cold glass of water. You don't want a lukewarm glass of water. You'll spit that out. So here's what I say: you either have a hot glass of water, or excuse me, a cold glass of water, or a hot cup of tea. You know, but there's no such thing as being lukewarm or in or out. So now, knowing that, we're going to go into another set of scriptures here, and so we're going to talk about a little bit more about not conforming to the ways of this world, and not being unequally yoked with unbelievers. So we'll go to the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 14, verses 17, and it reads, "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion has light with darkness?" So here we're talking about, okay, you say if you're on a set apart path and you proclaim that you're saved, then you should be unequally yoked. You should be able, in other words, you shouldn't be hanging out. You shouldn't be promoting with unbelievers. You know, that should be, they should be a part of your inner circle. Okay, now we're supposed to still go out to witness to them and still, you know, pray for them, you know, for their salvation. Hopefully that they'll be convicted to have to repent and forsake for their ways. But it says that we're not to be unequally yoked. Okay, because when you're yoked with somebody, you know, that means you're a share, you got a common bond, you're in a common goal with this person that who you're yoked with. You know, but it says not to be yoked with a person that is a carnal, who's still carnally minded, because they don't have the truth in them. It says that, you know, I read in 1 John chapter 2, it said the love of the Father not in that person. So, in the love of the Father not in that person, then that means that they still have in the world system. And we know that back in James chapter 4, that people who still have feelings or attachments to the world system are enemies with Yahuwah. So that's why we can't associate with unbelievers, or even those who are claimed to be saved, or claim to be in a set-apart path, but still walking with a carnal mindset where they think that they can still do worldly activities. They still think they can break Sabbath, you know, do things on the Sabbath that is contrary to what Yahuwah had divinely ordained since from back in Genesis chapter 1, where he set apart the Sabbath and he blessed it holy, set apart for his use and for his purpose, for his glory. But yet we still have Christians today to go out there and break the Sabbath, okay, which is also the fourth commandment. Okay, so now we have lawbreakers thinking they're still under the blessings of Yahuwah, but yet they're still breaking the fourth commandment. So I know that a lot of Christians say that, well, the law, the 10 commandments, has been nailed to the cross, which doesn't really make a lot of sense at all, because the 10 commandments were in effect way before it was given to Moses on Mount Sinai anyways, because Cain got punished when he killed Cain. I mean, he killed Abel. So he still got punished. He broke the 7th commandment, thou shalt not commit murder, but he still got punished, you know. So there's a lot of people still got punished breaking some of the commandments. Idolatry, so what happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, they got wiped out committing idolatry, you know. So you can't say that that's because we're not under the law, that we're not able to keep the law no more, because we still are obligated and still under the commandment to keep the law. So which keeping the Sabbath is still part of the 10 commandments. So it's not 9 commandments, it's still 10. So we have to be mindful of that. So, and then which goes to my last set of scriptures, which is a very somber thought when you read this, because a lot of people thinking that they're saved and thinking that they're on the set-apart path, but not really walking a holy or righteous life. They're in for a rude awakening. And this is going to go from the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 21 through 22. I'm sure most of us out here is very familiar with this portion of text. And it reads, Yahushua says, not everyone that saith unto me, here we're using the word Lord, Lord, which you know is not correct, shall enter unto the kingdom of heaven, but he doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils? And in thy name done many wonderful works? And chapter 23 reads, and then I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So, in other words, if you're still part of the world system, or still doing part of the world system, or if you are a compromiser, or if you're afraid to offend people because of the gospel, then you are a worker of iniquity. Because it says that back in James chapter 4 verse 4, it says that if you are a friend of the world, you are an enemy to Yahuwah. So that means you're not doing the will of the Most High. And that's the only way that you want to enter into the kingdom of heaven, is to do the will of the Father in heaven. Because a lot of people think that once they profess the Mashiach, that they don't have to do anymore, that they're saved and that's it, that's all they got to do. And now that they can go out and claim, they can do the name they claim it, they think that now that they don't have to go through anything, they can avoid persecution, they can avoid tribulations, they can avoid sufferings, and thinking that they're still okay. But especially being in America, it's so easy to get comfortable because money and other wealth or riches can basically buy you out of some suffering. Even if you only have a couple of dollars, you know, in your bank account, you know, I can still buy you out of some sufferings, you know, because a lot of part of the world today, they don't have the comforts that we have over here in America, but yet they're still being persecuted and being put to death because of what they believe in of the gospel. So a lot of Babylonian Christians today thinking that they're blessed because they have a big house, they have a big fancy cars, or have planes, or being successful on their jobs. But that's not what that's not really what the fruit of the Spirit is. That's not really what your fruits are. That's not the manifestation of what's inside you. What the manifestation inside you is how you live your life, of how set apart you are from the world system, how holy you are in your thinking, and how holy you are on the way that you walk out this life. Now, we are in the world, but we're not of the world. Okay? So, if you are on the set apart path and you are walking hand in hand with the world system, then you're not saved. You're not. You know, that's the truth right there, because you still have some affection for the world, and the love of the Father is not in you. So that's why we have to really, what Paul says, really we have to examine ourselves and see if we are still in the faith. And the way to examine ourselves is by looking into the scriptures and seeing what the Ruach says about how to live a holy and a set apart path for Yahushua HaMashiach, who died for our sins, in order that we're able to be with the Father up in heaven when our time is up. So that's all I have for today. There'll be many other lessons and scriptures coming, especially talking about the pagan traditions that a lot of Babylon is still wound up, still yoked up with. You know, talk about Easter, Christmas, Mother's Day, other kinds of pagan, heathen, traditional ways. We're going to go into a deeper series on that, because that's being yoked up with the world system. If you still bring those type of idols or bring those type of practices into your home, that's being yoked up, and we're not to be yoked up with the world system. So we just got the word, you know, 1 John 2:15, do not love the world or the things of the world. So that had to deal with Christmas and the pagan tradition behind that. And same thing with Easter, the pagan tradition behind Easter. And, you know, so we have to be mindful, and we have to take this thing seriously. I mean, this is our salvation. And we're going to make sure that we're on the right path, because we're going to walk through the straight gate. We're going to seek the straight gate, you know. So, and we got to strive for it. It's not easy. You know, we have to kill our flesh daily. We have to make sure that our mindset is correct. Every time we wake up in the morning, we have to make sure that our mind is correct. We put on the whole armor of Yahuwah. So, on that note, I'm going to close out this video, and until next time, shalom.